Hello, hello, hello. You're tuned in to Golden Creatives Talk. Today I am very excited. I'm your host, CT Luna, or you can call me Cynthia, and I have such an exciting guest today. Her name, Sabrina Estudillo Butler, and I should have probably asked you how to pronounce your name.
You did a great job.
Okay, great. Awesome. Sabrina, she is the founder of Unpolished Words. She's a book coach and editor for ambitious BIPOC writers. She helps them figure out where to start and what to do next so they can plan and write the book they can't stop thinking about. Her mission is to add more color to the bookshelves by helping Black, brown, and golden creatives, or as she says, other melanated writers, get clear on their ideas and confident in their writing skills so they can share their experiences, expertise, and stories with the world. And you can find out more about Sabrina and her work at her website, which is www.unpolishedwords.com. Sabrina, I'm so excited to have you here today.
I'm excited to
Wonderful.
be here. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
Yes, I'm so excited for having you on, especially because, well, you strike me as a very young person and you have 7 years of architecture experience under your belt already. So, which I'm kind of like adding on to a certain number of years of college. So maybe you just look very young
I'm
because of the
33.
whole melanated factor.
Yeah, possibly. I don't mind sharing. I'm 33. So
Wow. Okay, that's still really young.
pretty
So
young. Yeah.
so 7 years as an architect, and then you kind of transitioned into the book world. So tell us a little bit about that transition story and yeah,
Yeah,
there's
it's
something there.
it's interesting actually. I'm gonna go on a slight tangent before I fully answer this question. So
Mhm.
last week it was raining really hard in Chicago and there was some flooding in our apartment. And I have this closet in my office here that has these boxes of all of my journals since probably the age of 12. And I was so worried because some water got into the closet, and I was like, oh my God, are these journals ruined?
Oh,
So we
no.
pulled them out. They're totally fine. Thank God. But I started reading through some of them. It's been a minute. Like I used to have this ritual where every new year I would read through all my old journals, and then that became so unsustainable because I have like 40. So that's not a thing to do anymore. But I was reading through, just like picking random ones, and I found the journal I started right after I graduated. So I got my first like big girl job or whatever before graduation. It was in a suburb of Chicago, and I was excited because graduating, getting a job in your field, it's like this is literally what I've been spending
Just the
most of
dream.
my time. Yeah, like it was a 5 year architecture program that I went through, so it was a whole thing. But I have this joke that I normally tell when I tell this transition story, that I knew within 6 months that I didn't want to work at my job. I was not feeling it. I read through those journals and CT. Day two, day two, I was like, I don't think I like this. And I just kept going for 7 years.
47
So
years.
yeah, there's probably a lot to unpack there, like conditioning, right?
Yeah.
When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a writer. I was like, this is, I
Yeah.
love books. I want to write. And my mom was like, okay, but what about money? How about we do
Writers don't eat.
journalism? Exactly. So she was like, well, how about we do journalism? And I said, okay, cool. And I think I took like, I don't know, an elective or something, some sort of intro to journalism type thing. And I just wasn't really feeling it. So I randomly came across an intro to architecture elective in middle school. My middle school was pretty cool for having those types of electives. And I was like, this is the thing. So when I was 12, I decided I want to be an architect. And then I spent the rest of my life pursuing that goal.
Hmm.
Obviously, day two of my job, I was like, this was a mistake. But I felt kind of stuck. Like so
Uh-huh.
much money went into school. I had scholarships, but there were a lot of student loans. A lot of time went into it. And then there was the perception of my friends and my family who get to tell people like, oh, this is my daughter, Sabrina. She's an architect. This is my cousin. She's an architect. And everyone would be like, oh my God, that's so cool. And that's kind of intoxicating in itself. It's like, oh, I have a cool career that people admire. So yeah, I think 2019-ish is when I got a little bit more serious about, okay, I cannot keep doing this. I was miserable. And it wasn't even the job. Like the job was fine. My boss was amazing. I love her. When I left, she was super supportive. But I was just searching like, okay, what can I do that is not this? At first it was other architecture jobs. Every time
What can I do that is not this? I love it.
Yeah, right? But every time I read another job description, I was like, no, I don't like this. So I think I found a random proofreading, like how to start a proofreading business course online. And that was my first thing. I said, okay, well, I'm going to do this. So I bought that course. I went through it in a few weeks. I passed the certification. And it wasn't through like the Editorial Freelancers Association or ACES or anything like super credible. It was just a random course by a person who was a proofreader. But that was my like, I came into the door. I stepped into the world and I said, okay, this feels like there's no barrier to entry. So let's do this. And the reason I gravitated towards that was because it was books, it was writing. It's like, that's always what I wanted to be working with. And writing a book was not going to immediately make me money. So, yeah, I started off with proofreading. I was still working my architecture job when I did all of that. I very quickly shifted into copy editing. And in 2022, February, this is a long story.
That's fine. I'm riveted.
In February of 2022, we had our like annual self-review or evaluations or whatever. And the way that it worked was we filled out the form and then you like turn it into to like your supervisor and your boss, and you have a meeting about it and you just like go through how you're doing. So I filled it out, everything except for what is your, like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? And I didn't answer it because I was like, not here, but I can't say that. So I left it blank. And then in the meeting, my boss asked me, so I noticed you didn't answer this question. Like, can we talk about it? Like, where do you see yourself in 3 years? So I just start rambling. And I'm talking about wanting to work in more community-based architecture, which was true at the time. Like, I always thought I wanted my own firm. I wanted to do more like affordable housing projects and just things like that. So that's kind of what I was rambling on about. And she cut me off because clearly I was just going off on, I don't know.
Riffing.
Yeah. She cuts me off and she's like, let me tell you my 3-year plan. So in 3 years, I'd like to retire and I would like to leave the firm to you and 2 other people to manage. And I was 27, 28, 29, I don't know. Like, to be managing a whole architecture firm, and it was a small firm, but still, like, that's an amazing opportunity. And she asked me, like, are you interested in that? How do you feel about that? And I just said yes. I was like, that sounds amazing. Like, oh my God, thank you so much. And then I left the meeting and I had the worst stomachache of my life. I was like, I just lied to this woman's face. I don't want this. And I sat on it for a few days. And probably like a week later, I don't even know if I lasted a week. Some amount of time later, probably less than a week, I went into her office and I was like, Sabrina, you're not going to cry. And then I immediately start crying. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do this. Like, I don't want to be an architect. And she was like, oh my God, what happened? Like, what do you mean? And so we had a conversation about it. She tried to get me to stay and I didn't. I was just, at that point, my whole soul was just out of there. So yeah, like I said, so at that point I had my side business of editing, just freelance editing for 2 years. And at the beginning of 2022, I joined Author Accelerator's book coaching certification program. And I was like, okay, I'm going to wait till the summer and then I'll quit my job. Didn't make it. February 22nd, out. So yeah, and ever since then, I've been doing this full time and it's been the best decision of my life so far.
Wow. So either last week or 2 weeks ago, I had an interview, not on this show, but with another Substacker. And we were talking about returning to our joy. And actually, I found myself blurting at one point something that I had heard a couple years back. But basically, the measure is if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. And your architecture situation was clearly not a hell yes. It wasn't even
Yeah.
like a hell possibly. It was like,
Definitely not. Yeah.
yeah. Oh my God. But it says a lot though that you were working with a person that you could really be open and honest with, and
Yeah.
that you knew that you could. Because I do think this is maybe more of a problem with my generation than with your generation or the generations after mine, which is, going back to the conditioning topic, it's really hard to, and I'm spending lots of money with a therapist, just kind of like figuring out what I want and being okay with it when it's like, I want blank, right? So I want to be a writer, or I want to get into, the book industry. However it is, whether it's as a coach or as an editor or
Mhm.
whatever. So I guess this is kind of my long-winded segue into my next question for you, which is making that transition, right? Because there's like a lot of structure in working at an architecture firm and
Mhm.
the kind of work, that kind of work. And then it's like a whole other galaxy to start your own business, freelancing, and then it's a different industry, right? I mean,
Mhm.
book publishing is very different from, yeah, I would say in many ways from architecture.
Mhm.
So how is that adjustment? Because like now we're talking about different layers of adjusting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're being your own boss, and yet your clients are kind of turning into your boss. And
Mhm. It was weird. In one word, it was weird. I felt very free at first. It was kinda like, I don't know, summer break. Like, you leave and it's
Mhm.
just like, I have no cares in the world. And at the time, my husband was working at a corporate job, so he was making enough for both of us. So I truly had no cares in the world at the time.
Right.
He ended up quitting later that year and doing his own thing too. So we were just
I've been inspired by you.
basically, yeah. So, but it was a huge learning curve. I was also thankfully in therapy, so I had a little support during the transition. Um, and I just spent a lot of time spent a lot of time figuring out what I wanted my life to look like.
Mhm.
And it's not like now, it's not the same as it was 4 years ago, obviously. I feel like that's
Mhm.
true for most people. We evolve. But there was just so much I didn't really know about myself, I guess, that I just wasn't aware of.
Mhm.
That's one of the things, like, having a business, I think, is just one of the things in life that makes you figure out who you are, makes you
Yeah.
grow in so many ways. And, um, I also feel like my transition was softened because a couple of months after I left, I actually ended up contracting with my old architecture firm. She still needed someone to work on this one client that was, like, my client. So she was like, "Would you consider basically freelancing for us?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's
Mhm.
fine." It was, like, maybe 10 hours a week, maybe, and I was making more money.
Mhm.
So I was like, "Sure, let's do that." So I still had, like, the security blanket
Nice.
of architecture, and as I say that, um, it softened the transition in a security kind of way because, like, okay,
Mhm.
there's still somewhat steady money coming in, but it also made when it came time to fully break, it made it so much harder because my
Mhm.
entire life up until that point, I had this identity of I am an architect, and that's just how I saw myself, and so
Right.
once I left, it was like, "Who am I? What I don't know how to relate to myself anymore." And it took so long for me to stop introducing myself as, I used to be an architect, but now I'm a book coach. It's like,
Right.
no, now I'm just a book coach. Like, no one cares. This was however long ago. So yeah, there were a lot of different layers, I think, to the transition that just took some time to settle.
There's so much in your response that I want to unpack, but I'm going to stick to the whole architecture thing before getting to your now life. Um, but maybe this is even a transition kind of question, right? So architecture, it's all about like the bones of building,
Mm.
right? So now, like, did you feel like there were any principles of learning and understanding in your architectural education and professional? I mean, 7 years, that's significant,
Yeah.
right? Did you think there were any strong influences in terms of how you coach writers? And I'm assuming they're at several different levels.
Mhm.
How you coach writers who are bringing their manuscripts or their ideas to you and getting them sort of on track towards publication.
Yeah. So I'd say that like there are two that kind of stick out in my mind. One is the ability, like as an architect, you have to be able to see the big picture and the small details. Literally in a
Mm-hmm.
set of construction drawings, you have everything from the actual floor plans to elevations of the entire building down to details of like, when I cut through the wall, these are the materials in this order that need to be in there to like make it stand up and insulate the building and all of those things. So
Mm.
that ability to very easily go between big picture, small, has been so beneficial because
Mm.
a book is those things. And as an editor, I think it also helped that I started out with proofreading and copy editing because I was like, okay, these are the tiniest details, the little things. And when I switched into book coaching, it was so exciting for me because I was like, okay, I can see the full picture and not just the full picture of the book, but the full picture of the book in the context of the author's life. And
Mm.
that's just been the most, I don't know, it's just fun for me. It's helping the author also travel between the big picture and the small picture and helping them understand how to structure things so that it makes sense to them but it also makes sense to their reader. And so that's the second thing that kind of stuck out for me was the end user is everything with the building. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can have the most amazing concept for a skyscraper or whatever, but if there's no elevator, like no one's going to go up to that 100th floor. Like you have to figure out how to make things so that people will use them. um, and that's something that I think a lot of first time authors struggle with because it's like, this is my book, this is my baby. I want it to be what I want it to be. And
Right.
yes, that's true. And if you want people to read it and you want people to get whatever message you're trying to give them, you have to keep them in mind too. And so I
Yeah.
kind of hold all of that for my writers and like try to help them get there on their own too.
Yeah. I really like how you responded to that question. And actually, I think you've kind of set me up for um, the other component that I didn't feel like related, but I think your experience, duking it out in a job that you knew was not the right fit from day two for 7 years, um, that requires a lot of self-exploration,
Mm,
and and I feel like I don't know anything about architecture, so except George Costanza and Vandelay Industries. So, um, but like I feel like they're having that awareness of, big picture, small picture kind of applies to that exploration, self-exploration journey I'm talking about. Like I feel like that's
mhm.
something that I'm doing, but I probably didn't start doing it until, like 10 years ago or something, where I started to like big picture zoom, zoom out, zoom in, zoom out, zoom in from like my memories of, oh, when I
Yeah.
was 5, this happened to me. And that, that's resulting in these types of patterns today.
Mhm.
And these are the things that I'll be exploring in my book. Right. So I was doing the same thing, but just over a much longer period of time without, say, the rigor of, an architectural practice, and then which you then probably also just applied to your learnings in, as an editor, copy editor,
Mhm.
going through your proofreading course.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Mm. Are you asking what I think about that comparison?
Yeah.
It sounds accurate. It feels like what I was thinking about while you were saying all of that was the idea of like a connecting thread.
Hmm.
The I think we all have through lines in our lives that we're not
Hmm.
always aware of. You start going to
Hmm.
therapy and you're like, oh, this thing that happened when I was 5 also happened when I was 14, and then when I was 28.
And
You
it
know,
happened to me yesterday. Oh my God.
yeah, and I think it probably doesn't show up as much in architect in I don't want that feels like a blanket statement to say it doesn't show up as much in architecture. There's lots of different types of design and lots of
Mm,
different strategies and approaches. And I think there are some people who have a way more artistic and narrative approach with their designs.
mm,
The firm I was working in, we did commercial renovations. So it was a lot of like medical offices and dental offices and nail salons and just like stuff you'd see in a strip mall or like a random place.
mhm,
Um, and it didn't feel like there was a whole lot of thread finding or storytelling narratives. Like some of that stuff that maybe I experienced in architecture school didn't really translate to the actual career,
mhm,
but I knew it existed and I had experienced it
mhm.
before. And yeah, all that to say, I do think it's an accurate comparison. In my professional career, it didn't feel like uh, that deep, I guess.
Right, as an architect.
As an architect, yeah.
So now that you're a BIPOC coach, I guess my question is, um, what do you think is what do you think is like, I don't want to call it a common structural flaw that you see in, the clients that are
Mhm,
approaching you? Like, maybe I'll say with the inexperienced or the, first
mhm.
time book writing clients, that approach
Yeah.
you.
I'd say the most common thing that we'll say first time writers struggle with is wanting to tell their entire story.
Yeah.
Whether they're writing a memoir or not, their story just kind of finds its way into whatever they're writing, which is beautiful, honestly. Like, that's part of why we write, in my opinion, to
Hmm.
figure ourselves out, to figure out the world, to figure out other people. Um, but that's just not practical. Back
Right.
to like the reader, do they really need an autobiography from you? Probably not.
Right. Right.
But if we can examine ourselves in a way that we draw meaning from everything, but if we can like find a time period or like one specific thread that
Hmm.
connects different time periods, like exploring the zooming in. I guess this goes back to the big picture and the small picture. It's too much big picture. That's the
Hmm.
thing. It's like, let's just give everything all at once.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So, okay, your brand is Unpolished Words.
Yeah.
Um, and for BIPOC authors who might feel that their story is too much, or even for you as a coach where you feel like it's too much or too messy, how do you use that unpolished energy to help them build more powerful narratives? And actually, I would like for you to really consider the Black and Brown
Mhm.
creatives that you work with versus, let's say, whatever we might be filtering through that white mainstream lens.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what creates that too messy or too much perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. I feel like so many of us have just gone through our entire lives being told that we are too much, too messy, not having space. Honestly, sometimes even in our own families, not having space to just fully express ourselves.
Mm.
And the unpolished, fun fact, my business was originally called Polished Words. And um, it made sense
True
being a proof.
convictions, folks. You heard it here
Yeah,
first.
right? Like being a proofreader, copy editor, I was like, oh, this makes sense. I'm polishing your words. But I rebranded, I think back in 2023.
Mm.
And I sat with, why don't I like polished words? Unpolished is such a small, it's literally just two more letters, but it's literally the opposite. And it felt like permission. The
Mm-hmm.
unpolished part of my brand is me trying to let people know that it is okay to be unpolished. It is okay to just show up. It's okay to start off writing your entire life story. We can figure out where the narrative is within that. But permission to be unpolished is just not something we are given. It's also part of the
Mm.
reason before we started the live stream, we were talking about like I'm anti-professional. Like I show up to meetings in hoodies and hair up in a bun, and like I just don't have the desire to perform for other
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that Black and Brown people in general, but especially Black and Brown writers, feel the need to do, perform. They need
Mm-hmm.
to. There's actually a lot of my clients, we've had many conversations about just write how you are talking. Tell me the story, dictate it if you have to. Like, stop trying to
Mm-hmm.
sound like you're writing a LinkedIn post or an essay for school. This is not that. This is different.
Or a year-end performance self-assessment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, and it's hard. It's sometimes it takes a while to just for people to get comfortable with their own voice. It's like we can have the conversations and they're like, I know what I sound like, but when I try to write, it just won't come out that way. And I'm like, all right, then we got to figure out a different way to get it out of you. Um, but yeah, that's just at its core, it's expression. And that's what feels scary because it's vulnerable.
Yeah. We are now entering some really interesting territory, because I did see something on your site. You mentioned something about the classics of tomorrow, that you're working
Mhm.
with clients to develop the classics of tomorrow. And, I think I understand your vision is, working with Black and Brown voices and stories to add to the mainstream
Yeah.
library of published works,
Yeah.
and to sort of beef up and grow out that body of experience, um, and even body of knowledge.
Mhm.
That's a big job.
Yeah.
uh, it's a big job, and I think where is my question going with this? Yeah, I guess I'm impressed how undaunted you are with the magnitude of, you know, that vision.
Mhm.
How did
Thank
you
you.
get there?
Um, I got there by reflecting on mostly my educational experiences. There are already classics by
Mhm.
Black and Brown writers.
Yes.
And sometimes when this topic comes up, whether in conversation or just in my brain, I wonder, am I saying the right thing? Because I'm not trying to discount what is already there.
Yeah.
But when I think about, uh, so I went to high school, I went to a private school on a scholarship, and
Mhm.
it was a majority white school. And not just majority white, but like rich white kids, which felt
Mhm.
so foreign to me.
Mhm.
And then I went to Carnegie Mellon for college, and it was diverse, but like still white people everywhere all the time. And the specifically in high school, I guess more so in high school, like I think back to my English classes,
Mhm.
and like the very first book we had to read for freshman English was Catcher in the Rye.
Mhm.
And then we also read The Great Gatsby, and we also read like I can't even remember right now, but like those are the classics that we are told are the classics, and we need to read these things because these are great, amazing writers, and they're masters, and they're this and that. And
Mhm.
it just pissed me off. Like I was just so tired of it. And then at CMU, not literature related, but in architecture, like my program was mostly white people too. And all of our professors were white, maybe except for a few, but I felt so other and just so
Mhm.
not cared about, I guess,
Mhm. Mhm.
and received the message over and over again that I was not enough. And so
Mhm.
when I think about helping authors get their stories into the world so that we can have more classical works by us,
Mhm.
it's because there just aren't enough. I don't think there will ever be enough because there's such a wide like there white authors got such a head start.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that this dream of mine is ever really going to be like truly fulfilled. But I
Yeah.
also don't think that matters. I feel like the pursuit of it is enough.
I I agree. And I guess part of my question and also just some of the reflection you've also spurred in responding to this, I know it was a meaty question, um, is about the classics and the definition of classics. And I
Yeah.
think I'm not really sure even if I don't know if they had a head start in terms of the production of classics, but they've definitely had a had the hand in defining what is a classic,
Yeah.
and right, and kind of saying like this is the model of
Mhm.
what is a strong foundation. And I'm
Yeah.
sure that there's some truth to that model, but it's not like the only truth, right? So
Yeah.
back to your architectural, like you have to know that like for a wall to be standing, it's got to have this and this
Mhm.
layer, right? And it's like, yeah, same goes for story. Like you have to have this structure, whether it's 3 acts or 5 acts, like there has to be an appropriate build up and then kind of wind down.
Yeah.
Even if it's a sharp wind down, it still has to kind of follow. I don't want to say formula, but it's the only word that's coming to mind.
Yeah.
And And so there's been rigor in the study, there's been rigor in the proliferation of that aesthetic
Mhm.
in a way that maybe, other art forms have not, they haven't been, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? That there hasn't been this, uh,
I feel like I'm catching the vibes, but I can't get the word either.
right, that there hasn't been this like structured, um, way of presenting the materials for
Mhm.
all art forms or for art forms of other cultures.
Mhm.
um you know
Mhm.
Actually, it's really interesting because I was just listening to some Chinese music, for lack of a better, I don't know
Yeah,
specifically what
descriptor.
kind of music it was. I was just kind of hearing it. And I was thinking, this is so different from the models and the structures of music in the Western world, right? Like
Mhm.
classical music and even hip hop, they all kind of follow like a very, a 4/8 beat structure,
Mhm.
which, that's what I'm used to. And
Yeah.
like that form of music, Chinese music, it like has a completely different cadence that I'm just not familiar with. But mind you, China, like what, how many people? Lots,
A
I think
lot.
it's the
Yeah.
number of the US, right? Or maybe even more. Um, so I guess all that to say, like it's a big job that you're
Yeah.
working on.
Yeah.
Um, it's a big job. And I guess some of the job moves into partnering with your clients in terms of an exploration of identity and what
Mm-hmm.
signature they want to put into the body of literature
Mm-hmm.
that's their own.
Yeah. I like the way you phrase that. Um, I don't know how to respond though.
I can kind of kick you off because I feel like you're potentially working with like the future Maya Angelou, the future Toni Morrison, the future James Baldwin,
Mhm.
who actually all of their works are the study of identity.
Yeah. I I don't think I'm there yet. I feel like the people that I've worked with have been amazing and do also have that like I think I have this on my website too. Like I call myself a writer first book coach. My
Mm,
goal is to help you become the person you need to be to write your book. Like the book will come, it is in you. I care about you more than the book.
mm,
So there's always a level of reflection and just like personal, like I become friends with all my clients. There's like a very deep relationship that we cultivate and that they cultivate with themselves in the process.
mhm,
And I don't think any of the actual books my clients are working on so far are as explicitly exploring those topics.
mm,
And so that's why I say I don't think I'm there yet. Um, and honestly, the idea of truly coaching someone who will be the next the next anyone
mhm.
freaks me out a little bit. And it's probably this like imposter syndrome coming up. But it's also exciting and it's all I also don't want it to be not that you're implying this, but I don't want it to sound like I think I'm doing this giant service to publishing and I'm the only one that can do this and I'm so important because I really just a facilitator, not just, but I am a facilitator. I am
Mhm.
someone who cares about this work and is still learning. And I don't think I'll ever
Yeah,
stop learning how to do it.
yeah. I don't think you'll ever stop learning either. And I'm lifting you up and I'm giving you flowers because
Thank
I
you.
I just think it's a really important thing that you're doing. Even if it is just, black chicklet, right? Like I know it might not
It's all
be,
important. Yeah.
right? But
I
it's still important. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And I mean the topics that my clients write about. So I work with fiction and nonfiction clients.
Hmm.
One of my nonfiction clients, she actually is wrapping up her manuscript right now to send to her publisher. It's a prescriptive nonfiction book. It's about college admissions, but it's not just like how to get your kid into college. It's how to get your kid into college without them losing themselves, leaning into their
Hmm.
authenticity, and a little bit of analysis of like this is how capitalism, the patriarchy, and white supremacy are affecting college admissions, and this is why you need to know it so that we can navigate these systems. So it's like those are really big, heavy topics.
Dang girl, yeah.
But so like there's that, and then I have a client who is I'm like, which client do I want to talk about now? On the fiction side of things, like there's a client who's writing a book that is exploring independence and community, and like, do you have to forego community and connection in order to like keep yourself safe and to like be independent and do your own thing?
Mm,
um and so as I say these things, it's like, okay, yeah, no, we are covering all of the deeper things.
Yeah.
And it is just a matter of like, what is the format? Is it a chicklet? Is it self-help? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I think that's also you're making me think about how I am defining classic because I'm like, do I actually have a definition for this? Because I think mine is still based on what I was taught, and
Right.
like it's got to be literary fiction, and it's gotta. It's like no, it doesn't. If it's exploring important topics on in like a very authentic and vulnerable way, like that counts.
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I'm not sure I know exactly the definition of classic. I
Yeah,
think classic implies something enduring,
yeah,
that like can that is still applicable, decades,
mhm,
centuries later.
yeah,
Um, but obviously, and this is kind of to our earlier point about um, being in the position where you establish what that standard of endurance is,
mhm,
right? And this is, I think, part of the important work that you are doing, whether you sort of see it that way. And mind you, I'm not expecting you to be like, right, client, we're doing some big work today. So like,
no pressure.
buckle up. You know? We're in this for the long haul. Like we need another classic, damn it. But I think I think it's important and if we are to do this work, and boy, I am now just kind of creative jam sessioning right now, but if we are to do this work and um, tell our stories as authentically as we can, that is the job, right?
Yeah,
Because if we're looking to do something that is enduring as maybe one of the measures of a
mhm,
classic, then we have to be as honest, not only in our voice but in our content and then the delivery as well.
yeah,
And that's not easy because
mhm,
we've been code switching and we have, the enemy within our camps, right? We
yeah,
talk about like whether they knew it or not, right? Our parents were like, you want to be a what now? Like, do you want
yeah.
to pay rent? Do you want to be independent? Or do you want to, like, are you
Live in
planning
my
to
basement.
be a diplomat? Like,
Yeah, yeah. That that authenticity. So every time the conversation around authenticity and voice comes up, I think of one specific client I've worked with. Her book just came
oh,
out April 3rd, so like earlier this month. It's a book of essays. It's called Grief, Hope, Baseball. And she was one of the I'm pretty sure we've talked about this publicly before, so I'm not like sharing anything I shouldn't be. But writing that book full of personal essays, she had never really done like creative writing in that way before.
mm,
Um, it was such a journey for her to just get the feelings out. Like I could tell maybe all coaches are like this. I'm in human design, I'm a projector, and I just identify with that very strongly. I have this like piercing aura and sight. Like my intuition is super strong and I can just tell. I can read pages and be like, look, there is something in here that you're not sharing with us and I don't know what it is, but you need to get it out. Like put it on the page because what is this? Like this is surface level, you're not this is doing nothing. So there we had a lot of conversations where she would write something and I'd be like, how did you actually feel? Like what can you use your words? Describe. And we got there eventually and she is a better writer for it, but is also a better person for it. Like
right.
her ability to express herself has increased. Where was I going with all this? Oh, authenticity. So yeah, like the endurance of a classic, I think really does come from being able to describe yourself, the world, the people around you, and feelings in such an honest way that it becomes timeless. Like,
Yeah.
we can't write books for everyone. Like, your
Yeah.
audience cannot be everyone, but there are things that are just universal. If
Yeah.
you find a really beautiful way to describe the moon, I am going to understand that because I have also seen the moon. And maybe I
Yeah.
couldn't come up with those words, but I feel it. So I do think there's a level of simplicity in that. And like you said, it's not easy, but
Mhm.
there, I guess one of the criteria for a classic in my mind is very, very honest writing.
Yeah. And there's the rub. Going specifically for BIPOC writers, especially aspiring authors or,
Mhm.
BIPOC authors who are just entering this world, it and I will make a general statement because I strongly believe this. I'm sure there are exceptions, but I'll make a sweeping statement, which is really we are the products of the environment that we've grown up in. And a lot of us have grown up in environments that are heavily influenced by a culture that isn't sort of embedded in our DNA.
Yeah.
So there's such a large percentage of us who have grown up code switching, not even realizing it, not knowing, and the for me, the word that always keys me into when I'm code switching is when I start to speak um, like a police report. Well,
Mm.
then I proceeded to, like the word
Yeah.
proceeding to
Yep.
who
That's not natural
actually
to you?
uses it, right? And then I proceeded to open the car door and I, proceeded to put the key inside the ignition. Come on now. Like,
Yeah,
what'd you
yeah.
do? I got in my car and I drove off, like
Mhm.
so and that's I'm just using me as an example, like now I'm more aware of it because I've also been through the process of, like, okay, what do I really want to say? What
Yeah.
what is this scene supposed to say to my readers?
Mhm.
What is this character driving towards? Yeah, I don't really know. Oh, authenticity. Authenticity, it's a really scary thing.
Yeah.
Um, and it's it's a really scary thing. There was a chapter in my book um, that it took me about I actually pushed it aside for nearly 4 years.
Wow.
And you want me to tell you what that topic the chapter is about hair,
Ugh, and you
right?
just
I
couldn't.
couldn't. Like
Mm.
it was such a loaded topic. And there was a piece of me that was like it's like, Cynthia, really? First of all, you want to write a chapter about hair? Like, can you not think about like the most trivial thing out of all of the things that are happening on the planet right now? And you want to talk about hair? And I was like, the book needs it.
Yeah.
And clearly I need it. Like this needs exploring. And
Yeah.
the book will feel not complete. It was
Yeah.
the chapter that did not allow me to move forward with self-publishing the book. Which leads me into my next question, actually. Traditional publishing, self-publishing, your views.
My views. Okay. So I'd
And
say
my
like
feelings won't be hurt, by the way. Whatever you say.
well, I think my headline is kind of lame, but I think my headline is you got to do what makes sense for you. um, how I feel about it is I I mean, I have not written a book yet. When I do plan to pursue traditional publishing because that
Mm-hmm.
just feels like something I've always dreamed of. Where did that dream come from?
Conditioning.
Society? Exactly. So it's like we could question that, we could explore that and be like, well, you know what? Fuck traditional publishing. I'm gonna publish my own book because I don't need
Mm-hmm.
gatekeepers. And that's part of my thing is like
Mm-hmm.
publishing is white as fuck. That's like on my LinkedIn banner and everywhere because that is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
It is yet another system that is upheld by white supremacy and capitalism and doesn't exist to serve the writers and doesn't exist to serve BIPOC writers, especially.
Mm-hmm.
And it still has its merits. It's still cool. It's still
Mm-hmm.
like validating. And then again, there's that whole other conversation about like, well, why do we need external validation?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need that? I don't know. So there's a lot to explore with traditional publishing. What I normally tell my authors is like, I give them the Jane Friedman graphic. She has like a key publishing paths that she does every year. And I'm like, I don't feel like explaining all this to you. And there's a lot. So here, just read through this blog post and like decide what feels good for you. So yeah, I never really advise people go one way or the other. When it comes to self-publishing, I think it's awesome. Like it's expensive if you're doing a quality job, but it is so empowering to take control of your process when you're self-publishing. Like you're going to write the book regardless, but like you get final say on everything. The cover, the title, where you post it. Like, do you want to sell it on Amazon or not? Because maybe you hate Jeff Bezos. Like you just retain so much of that control and your power. And so I think that part is really awesome. But I also, it's like, sure, there's not a gatekeeper, but maybe the gatekeeper is money. Like that's a huge barrier for a lot of people. So yeah, they both have their pros and cons.
They both do have their pros and cons. And thank you for mentioning. I mean, even traditional publishing can be an investment.
Yeah.
They're both their investments. I think more needs to be communicated about the financial investment in traditional publishing, as well as the time investment in traditional publishing, as well as the time investment and sometimes financial investment in traditional publishing. I think there's still a lot of, actually, I would say across the industry, there's still a lot of like smoke and mirrors. And, you're right about Jane Friedman's. I haven't visited her site in years, but I did, go by some of her earlier tips and insights from back in the day.
One of the things I always make sure, if a client does want to go the traditional publishing route, I'm like, look, you are going to need to hire a PR person. So plan for that.
Because a designer.
Just like people are, yes, they are paying you money, hopefully, and like they're invested in your project, but there are so many other authors they're working with. And at the end of the day, like you're probably not their top priority. So like you still got to take care of yourself. So I do always give that disclaimer of like, you may think this is all I do is write the book and they do everything else. And it's like, no, that's not accurate.
Yeah. I like that advice as well about get a PR person. It's really funny because I did decide to self-publish, and I went, through all of that. And the funny thing is, I really kind of, once I had decided, okay, I'm doing this and I'm going to release the book, it only dawned on me after, like really at the day after I decided to self-publish and I had already started to, go public. I was like, oh, I need to promote this.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't think about that.
Yeah. Books are business. And
they are.
I don't think a lot of people like to look at it that way, but like, if you're trying to sell books, like you got to market them and you have to treat it like a business. And that's not
Yeah.
fun. Unless
Yeah.
you're a nerd like I am. I loved building my business. I'm still like, I have a business coach and I'm a nerd for that. So when the time comes, I will definitely be treating my book like a business, but that does not come naturally to a lot of people.
Right. And you can still there are like hybrid models as well, I'm hearing.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, that traditional publishing doesn't mean that you like give it all up if there's certain things that you really want to have some kind of control over.
Yeah.
But yeah. Awesome. So, oh, by the way, I just wanted to say, since you were talking about how much you love building your own business, I can really tell your
Oh,
website.
thank
It
you.
is such a wonderful website. It has like such an authentic voice.
Thank
And
you.
it really has tongue-in-cheek, uh, you know,
Yeah, that was the goal. A little bit
sparkly
of sass.
personality. A little bit of sass, but
Yeah.
just really a little. I mean, it's really sweet, and I love that one thing where you said, like, I don't care about your book. I think that's what it says.
Yeah,
Like, I
that's on
don't
my about
care
page.
about. Yeah, I
It's
love
the
it.
headline. It's the headline on my about page. So I took like so my website. It's a template design. I just like bought off of some online market and I customized it with my branding and all the copy I wrote myself. But I took like a copywriting course to learn what
Uh-huh,
makes good copy. And the number one thing was like write like yourself. And I
uh-huh.
figure if I showcase this on my website, like hopefully now actually having this conversation with me, I sound like my website. Like
Yeah, you
we
do.
are the same. So if I can model that for people, like this is what it looks like to sound like you when you're writing.
Hmm.
That's like my first little inception into people's brains. Like this could be you too.
Yeah, it's
But
wonderful.
thank
No, you do.
you.
It's a really lovely website. So, no pressure, but what's next for Unpolished Words and Sabrina?
So actually, you are the first person to hear this like publicly. I am planning a virtual
Only on
summit.
the Creative Talk, folks.
Exclusive.
It's an
Breaking
exclusive.
news. Yeah, so I'm planning a virtual summit. Um,
Oh, cool.
I am calling it the BIPOC Author Summit. So we are going to have an all BIPOC speaker lineup. I have not pitched people yet. It will be coming. Yes, I will pitch you, or
Oh,
you can just.
yay.
But
Pitch
yeah,
myself.
so it's still in the very early planning stages, but that is the goal. It will be in August. There's a wait list. Like if people are interested, they can just fill out the little form. It's on the homepage of my website, which is unpolishedwords.com. So yeah, that's the next big thing I'm working on. And then
Super
just serving my
exciting.
clients. Yeah. And then
Okay,
it's just
can you just elaborate a little bit about what this BIPOC Author Summit, like,
yeah.
what is kind of the aim? Is it panel discussions? Is it
Um
like a book fair or
it's
asking for a friend?
educational. It's educational. I'm envisioning the speakers will, whatever topic they want to speak on. I'm starting it off pretty broad. This is the first time I'm doing this. I'm treating it as an experiment. So it's a 3-day thing. Day one will be all about planning your book, any genre. Day two is all about the actual writing, revising, all that. And then
Mhm.
day three is publishing focused. So the idea, I haven't thought about panels because moderating a panel kind of, I don't know if I want to do that. But um, it's an option. So yeah, I'm just envisioning the speakers come in and like teach something, whatever their expertise is. And yeah, the target audience is BIPOC authors. It's open to everyone. It's a free event, but you know, I've never ever ever been to a virtual summit that has a fully BIPOC speaker lineup. First of all, let alone like
You're
not let
right.
alone like they're all. I've spoken at a few where it's like I'm honored to be asked, like invited to speak at this, and it was a great experience for the ones that I've done. But I'm one of like I don't know 5 or 6 people of color on the speaker page, and it's just
Yeah,
annoying. Like I'm just tired of it. So
right,
I said, okay, well then I'm gonna create the opposite.
right,
Someone asked me if I would have any token white speakers, and I was like, no, that's
right.
not what I'm doing.
And then there's the other corner, which you could maybe explore with a few BIPOC speaker. No, I'm
Wait, I'm like, what do you mean?
no, but that's usually how like a lot of these conferences are, right? It's always
Yeah.
like we'll be talking about this, that, or whatever, or there will also be an other section
Yeah,
where you can
exactly.
meet
And
the two people that we dug up, you know.
yeah, so I honestly struggled a little bit in conceptualizing all of this because it's like I'm not expecting anyone to teach something that's necessarily like writing education doesn't change just because we're not white. Like good
Mhm,
writing is good writing.
you're right.
So
Back
I
to
kind of struggled. Yeah, and so like I kind of struggled with that a little bit because I was like, what am I really offering? But what I'm offering is a space where you do not feel like a little colored C, colored dot, like a. Not, I'm regretting using the word colored, but you know what I mean. Like
Mhm,
I was tired of being in Zoom rooms where I am the little dot of brown, and
right.
like it's just not a good experience. Even if what
Yeah.
I'm learning is great, I can't unsee it. And there's power in us forming community and just being in a room together, virtual or not.
Yeah. Right. Well, that I have to say that was like a bombshell announcement. So again, virtual summit, BIPOC Author Summit,
Yes.
online in August, 3
Mhm.
days, lots
Yeah.
of Black, brown, and golden creative awesomeness.
Yep.
And I already have like I've met so many amazing folks like you and other Black, brown, and golden creatives,
Mhm.
you know, who I know would be clamoring to be a part of this summit. So I'm
Yeah, I
hook
would
you
love
up.
it. I would love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It feels good to just like get that out there.
Yay! I'm gonna go straight to your website, sign up, which is www.unpolishedwords.com. Her form is on her homepage. So
Yep.
before you get distracted by the wonderful copy on all of the other pages, sign up to get on the wait list for the BIPOC Author Summit in August, virtual summit. And it's free. Hello.
And it's
Yeah,
free. Yeah.
yeah. Awesome. Okay, so is that where Black, brown, golden creatives can reach out to you to get started on their narrative authority, or are you on a hold,
Yeah.
or what's that process going to look
So
like?
I take private clients. I do have a wait list at the moment. The private client roster is full, but a couple of spots should be opening up within the next few months. So yeah, there's like a book coaching page on my website. People can go there to learn more about what my actual packages are and how to work together. And then there's just a contact form on my website to fill out.
Hmm.
Unless if you want to be coached, it is a wait list. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I also do editing projects still. So
Okay.
if you're like an indie author and want some copy editing, a manuscript evaluation, those are both things that I offer. Um, and yeah, the other place you can
Yeah.
find me is on socials. Like if you ever just want to chat, DMing me on Instagram is probably the best way. um, and my Instagram is at unpolished.words.
Okay, that's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, you've heard it all here today, folks. Thank you so much, Sabrina Estudillo Butler, for joining us today. And I'll see you next week. I have an awesome guest next week, and her name is Melly D. And she has an amazing podcast as well. So we'll find out more from her. But for the moment, thank you so much, Sabrina. Really looking forward to your BIPOC Author Summit in August. We will stay in touch.
Thank you, CT. This has been a pleasure. Probably my favorite podcast experience so far. So thank you.
You heard that here, folks. Ciao for now.
Bye.